Hi everybody and welcome to the channel. I am Richard. Today we are going to frame our friends for murder. Hopefully because they might be able to frame you first. And you need to collect evidence to make sure that you can show the cops that you are innocent and the guy to your left or right is the ones that have done the murder. I'm gonna show you planting evidence. This is a 2 to 4 player game from Tin Robot Games, and it's about 30 to 45 minutes of gameplay. The game is 14 years and above because the material in the game is, as you might understand, a little bit explicit because you're trying to frame someone for murder. Makes sense, right? I am going to show you the setup of this game. I'm going to give you an overview of this game and show you how to play it. So once you have watched this video, well, you're ready to try to frame your friends. This is a game that will go live on GameFound later this year, and you will be able to find all the links down in the description if you want to check it out. So let's just have a look at it. This is the setup of the game. Before you shuffle the deck, you should remove the evidence cards and the alibi cards from the deck, because these should be placed in front of each player. The evidence to the left of the player and the alibi to the right of the player. Then you should choose one player to deal 11 cards to each of the players. The player that deals out the card will also be the one responsible for writing down the scores at the end of each round. So you should have a piece of paper and a pen nearby. Once you have dealt out all the cards to the players, you put the deck face down in the middle of the board and take the top card and place it face up. This will be the discard pile. This game is about you framing your friends for murder. And there's no fun in that, right? You will do this by playing the cards on your hand, making sets, and placing out evidence against the other players in front of their evidence cards. And you also have to try to collect alibi for yourself, because you do not want the most scores in this game. If you end up the game with the most scores, well, you are the one being framed for murder. The alibis here will subtract your score, but the evidence will, of course, add to it. But how do we plant evidence and how do we plant alibis? Well, we're going to look at that, but first, let's take a look at the cards. The cards that you can use and make sets of falls into 5 different categories. The first ones are DNAs and fingerprints. And then we have weapons and license plates. Lastly, we also have wild cards. These can be used instead of any of the other cards. But alibis, the blue ones, can only be played on alibi cards, and evidence, the red one, can only be played on evidence cards. On each of these cards, you can see a number on the side of the card. These are used to add up scores or subtract scores at the end of the round. The first player is the player to the left of whoever dealt out the cards at the start of the game. Now, I am to the left of the dealer. We all saw that, right? So I get to go first. Now, during a player's turn, the first thing you should do is to pick up a card. And you can choose to pick up a card from the face down pile or from the face up pile. And you do not have to have a matching card on your hand to pick up this card. You can do it anyway. So once the player have picked up a card, they now have some choices to make. Because if they have a set on their hand, meaning 3 cards or more, they can choose to place out evidence on another player below their evidence card. But the sets you place out cannot contain the same card twice. They all have to contain different colors to be a set. And you can choose to add the wild cards in your sets as well, but then you can't have 2 wild cards. So it would have to be 2 of a different type of cards and 1 wild card. So this is a correct set. We have 2 different types of weapons and 1 wild card, making this a set of 3 cards. We can now place this below our opponent's evidence card. But this, for example, would not be a correct set, because here we have 2 of the same weapons, making this set an illegal type of set. During your turn, you can also start to build up your alibi. Remember, these cards are used to reduce the amount of evidence points against you at the end of the game. So you will need to build up an alibi. But you can't do this before somebody actually plants evidence on you. So if I would have had no evidence here, well, I can't start to build up an alibi. That would just be weird, right? So you will need to have planted evidence against you first. So here somebody says that they have my fingerprints at the murder scene. So I better start building up my alibi. And we do this just the same way as we did on the planting evidence. We would need to have a set of cards. We can't have the same kind of card twice, and we can use a wild card. But this time the wild card would have to be a blue wild card, because now we are building up the alibi, not the evidence, the red ones, the blue ones. That's what we want now. And again, we would need to have a set of at least 3 cards to start building up our alibi. Players can add to these sets at any time, as long as they don't exceed 4 cards of the same type. Once you have played a card on the table, you cannot remove those cards. They are now on the table. You can't pick them up on your hand. You can't take a wild card and then use it again in another set. No, you have placed them, so now they are placed. A player can also choose to just pass their turn. If they do not feel like there's anything on the table that they can achieve during this turn, well, wait a little bit. The last thing a player does during their turn is to discard a card. A round can end in 2 ways. Either if a player discards their last card that they have on their hand, or if they place out an alibi or an evidence on another player and that is their last cards from their hand, then a round ends. But this cannot happen during a player's first turn. You can only go out on your second or later turn. So now it's time for the dealer to count down some scores. Remember, this is the dealer's job at the end of the round. And the way they would do this is that they would first calculate the evidence. But how do we calculate it? Well, first we go on with the weapons. If you have a set of 3 weapons, these will count as scores for the player. But when it comes to DNA, fingerprints, and license plates, it's a bit different, because if you do not have a full set, these do not count. Meaning that if you have a set of, for example, 3 license plates, they will not count as scores, because you need to have 4 to actually make a set. And that goes for these 3, the fingerprints, the DNAs, and the license plates. Not the weapons. There you only have to have 3 or more to actually calculate as scores. Well, why do you want to throw away cards then if you do not make a full set? That is because the cards that the players have left on their hand now counts as scores against them. So you want to get rid of your cards on your hand. Once the dealer have calculated the scores of the evidence, we also need to calculate the scores of the alibis, because these points will reduce the evidence points, remember? So, once the dealer have calculated the evidence and subtracted the alibis, we have a score for the players. And this is the way the game goes on round by round until one player hits the magic score of 300. Once a player gets a score of 300, well, you are framed for murder, my friend. There you have it, people. That was Planting Evidence from Tin Robot Games. A fast, funny game where you can just sit down and you can play several rounds, several turns really, really fast. The teardown goes fast, the setup goes fast, and learning the game really takes no time at all. And it is really fun to just sit down and try to frame your friends for murder. I mean, it's a despicable crime and we shouldn't joke about it, but it's still kind of fun, isn't it? to sit down and try to plant the weapons on your friends, plant the license plates on another friend, and try to build up your own alibi to just stay out of trouble. It's a lot of fun, and we got a lot of laughs out of this one. So sit down, get some beverage, get some pizza, food, or snacks, or whatever, and just have a good time with this game. Like I said, it will be out on GameFound soon, and there will be links down in the description, so check that out if you want to know more. That was the video for this week, people. If you liked it, please comment, please give me a thumbs up. If you like my channel, if you like what I'm trying to do here, please subscribe to the channel. It gives me a smile on my lips every time. And until next time, people, please take care of each other and keep on spreading that board gaming love I know you all have. Peace.